What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. All right, there are leaves on the ground. The temperature has a slight chill to it, as much as global warming will allow. And there's pumpkin spice on the menu, which means it is fall, and fall means playoff baseball. So we got to talk about that and also look back at the season that was. And what better person to have talk about that with me than Brett Gosnell? Brett, what is going on?
How are we doing? Very, very excited for this.
Yes, because not only are we going to talk about baseball, but we're debuting a new game on Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers, Fair or Foul. You know it's important because I'm holding note cards.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So, Brett, are you ready to play in the first ever Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers game of Fair or Foul?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so first, the rules. I will give you a subject, a statement. Some might call it, if they were an English teacher. I will say fair or foul. If you agree with the statement, you will say fair and you will tell us why. If you do not agree, you will say foul and tell us why you don't agree. Then, as the segment winds down, I will ask you if the bases are clear. That means, have you gotten everything off your chest?
Okay, I like it.
That's something I just made up because I'm a sports media genius. So let's get into it. Fair or foul? Here we go. All right. Fair or foul? The rule changes implemented this season have been a success. For those of you who don't recall, we've had pace of play rules, including the pitch clock, limits on defensive shifts, larger bases. Brett, success, fair or foul?
Not only is it fair, it's a home run.
Boom.
It's inside of the foul pole into the seats. They nailed it. I was very pessimistic or skeptical, I guess I should say, going into this year. But every one of them has been successful to one degree or the other. So to my mind, when I'm looking at analyzing whether they were successful or not, I'm thinking, did they achieve the outcome they intended? And did they do it with the least amount of disruption to the game, right? So let's look at I'll go through all the ones you mentioned. So pace of play. Did they achieve the outcome? Absolutely. Game time, it's almost half an hour shorter on average. I think it's like 25 minutes. The games are shorter. And it's noticeable. Like, it's not noticeable in a bad way. Like you don't, when you're watching a game, you don't feel like it's rushed, but you feel like you've been watching for half an hour and it's like, holy shit, it's the sixth inning already. I mean, the games are just going by faster. The way they went about achieving that was the pitch clock, obviously. So at the very beginning of the season and in college as well, because they instituted a similar rule, there was a lot of penalties. They had to enforce the rule. So when the pitch clock run out and the pitcher hadn't thrown the ball, they gave him a ball. Likewise with the hitter, if he wasn't in the box in time, they called a strike. Game at the beginning of the season, at least in college, games were won and lost on this shit. Like, guys were getting their third strike call to end the game. So it was very controversial for the first couple weeks. But very quickly, everybody figured it out. Everybody's got it down. And the second half of the season, I can probably count on one hand the amount of pitch clock violations I've noticed. So everybody's with it now. Everybody's got it. It's just perfect.
I got some advanced analytics. I know baseball people love it. I got some stats. So yes, according to Statista.com, the 2023 average game time is 2 hours and 42 minutes. That is, like you said, almost half an hour shorter than last season, and the first time under 3 hours since 2011.
Wow.
And it's at the point where, like, my big thing is I want to be entertained and I want it to be fast. I might be at the point where I'd rather watch a baseball game over a college football game because there's 8 million commercials in college football. It feels like it lasts forever.
College football has just gotten ridiculous. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just terrible.
It's like, why is the sun coming up?
So, so yeah, the pace of play nailed it, no question about it. Let's look at the. You didn't mention the shift, did you? The banning of the
Yes, I
shift.
did. But
Or
yeah,
you did.
let's.
Okay, good. Okay, so that one, the intended outcome was they wanted more base hits. Um, home runs are fun and everything, but what's really exciting is when the ball gets put in play and guys are running around the bases. That's what's fun. So they got rid of the shift, and the average has went up 5 points, I believe. So not huge, but not insignificant either. It went from like 243 to 248 this year. And I was against this one strongly just because I don't like to tell teams how to play. Like when the NBA banned the shift, I didn't care for that. Like I don't like to make a rule saying you can't play the game one way or the other. But as I watched baseball this year, I'm not like, damn, I missed the shift. I don't. It's fine. And
And kind of like
teams
I
are
don't know
still,
how significant that 5% is in the grand scheme of things because I only know so many advanced analytics and math. But it doesn't seem like a huge effect, like you're saying. Like that doesn't seem like it'd be enough. Like it's enough to where okay, you're getting guys on base, but it doesn't seem like wow, this has really swung things in the other direction towards the hitters. It just seems like okay, now you don't have to see
yeah,
this.
it's been minor, and it's not really hurt the defense that much either because the rule is you can only have so many people on either side of second base. You can still put your shortstop right at second base. You can still kind of almost shift. So it's not been that big of a difference.
Do
So
you think that maybe the reason it hadn't been that big of a difference is because like now hitters, even though there's still a shift, but hitters are like, well, I don't necessarily have to hit a home run. I can put it in play, and so they're approaching their at bats a little bit different. Or
I think when when teams first started shifting, I think a lot of like fans like me thought, well, why don't you just drop a bunt down the third baseline if the third baseman's not there? No hitter wanted to change their approach. They didn't want to sacrifice hitting doubles and home runs, so nobody changed their approach. So I think now nobody's still changed their approach.
okay,
It's just you're going up there. I mean, these guys are throwing 98. It's hard to aim the ball a certain way. You're just trying to hit it hard, and you know, with less guys on one side of the infield where you typically hit the ball, it just opens up a little bit of room to get a base hit. So it's been this goes to our point. It's been a minor adjustment, but it has achieved the outcome that they wanted to, and it hasn't hurt the viewing experience. So this is another one that I would say is fair for sure. And then the stolen bases is the other one. So the way stolen bases are up like what 40% or something like that. It's a huge.
I got some stats for you,
Yeah.
buddy.
Go
All
ahead.
right, according to baseballalmanac.com, there were 3,400 total bases at the time we're recording this, which is the most since 1999 and more than 1,000 than last season. That's 1,000 more than last season.
Wow,
Yeah, I've
that's
stolen
crazy.
37 myself.
Acuna, I mean, he got to 70. Yeah, he got to
Yep.
70 the other night. That just unreal. So clearly they've achieved that outcome more than they are probably ever dreamed that they would achieve it. And the way that they brought that about, one, they increased the size of the bases like a couple inches. Who gives a shit? That doesn't, I don't even notice
Yeah.
that. And this is where I was very skeptical. They made a rule that you can only attempt to pick off really twice because on
Yep.
your third attempt, you've got to get the guy out. I thought that was crazy. I thought that was going to just lead to so many bizarre situations. Like the pitcher can really only throw over once, because if he throws over once, then he can't throw over a second time. Because then if he throws over a second time, it's really not affected the game at all that I can tell. I mean, even when a guy attempts 2 pickoffs, it's not like the runner goes halfway to second base or something to get his lead, because the third one can still get you. So I really honestly, if I didn't know that rule had been implemented, I don't know that I would have known about it just watching the games. So
No, because it's mostly like you don't get the very rare instances where the guy's throwing over 5, 6 times. Baseball would just be like, quit fucking around, okay?
yeah,
Just stop. And so I love it because it doesn't really encourage, I think, like that much more stolen bases. Maybe, I don't know, but I like the thought of the possibility of more stolen bases because I like the
yeah.
more action on the bases.
Yeah. And really that was a pace of play rule as much as it was a stolen base rule,
Yes.
limiting the amount of throwovers. But yeah, what really what cut down on stolen bases was when the analytics movement started. They were able to tell you need to be successful 80% of the time stealing bases, or it's not worth it. Just, factoring in the out and losing the base runner and losing one of your 3 outs versus advancing only 1 base. You've got to make it work 4 out of 5 times. So people just basically stopped stealing at that point. But now, obviously Acuna and other guys are saying, well, I can make it 80% of the time now. So they're doing it. And it's made the game a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So are there any other changes you would like to see made?
Well, we'll get to the playoff picture in a little bit. But they're still constantly adjusting that. I still don't know if I like where they've got it now.
I know we got robot talk a lot of the time.
The umps, by and large, I think are pretty good. Honestly, Angel Hernandez notwithstanding.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, the game's moving faster. I think I'm good where the game is right now.
What about this one? No math. You can't figure any math. You don't know any math. No one can count. Like, yeah, I mean, you like to gamble, allegedly, not legally only, but like you can't count cards. You can't count anything. No math allowed. You just have to get up there. We'll tell you what happened at the end of the year.
Okay. So even if you hit like a 3-run home run, you don't know how many runs to add to your score.
We can do simple. Okay. How about
simple
this? We'll
arithmetic.
tweak it. Yes. We'll do basic addition, subtraction. You start trying to get percentages like the stolen base, 80%, you need 80% to a success rate to make it worth it. No, you did division. That's a hefty fine.
Yeah, I think we've talked about analytics. I know you talk about it with basketball a lot. When it first kind of got introduced to the game, I was with it because they brought in on base percentage and like simple stuff. And it was like, man, I always knew that it made sense to get a walk instead of just striking out. Like, so that kind of affirmed me. And it's like the more the public got with it, it's like the analytics nerds had to be like, oh, we're still smarter than the average person. So they had to come up with more and more shit like VORP. I don't even know what the hell that stands for. That's another stat they use. So it's like we're all on board. Like baseball tonight and all the mainstream is talking about WAR, wins above replacement. Like we're all on board with most of the analytics now. And it's like they still got to come up with more shit just to make themselves the elite nerds that they are to stay above all the rest of us.
Yeah, it's
awesome. Cut it off right now. Cut it off right now.
No more stats.
Yeah.
No more. We're done. All right. Well, we've reached the point in this fair or foul segment that I have to ask. Are the bases clear?
Bases are clear. Ducks are off the pond.
Boom.